Hello, I am Zinfogel. Cresselia is our latest Legendary Arena challenge. This battle looks really tough at first glance, but it's all about understanding and respecting the stage's gimmicks. In this video, I will tell you all you need to know about Cresselia and the easiest ways to counteract her tricks. Cresselia mostly uses special attacks, and she's weak to dark through the entire encounter. She's the most disruptive Legendary Arena to date because she inflicts status conditions such as paralysis and bad poison. Cresselia also raises her evasion, which makes it very difficult to land attacks. As soon as the battle starts, Cresselia uses Double Team and Calm Mind to raise her stats. Because of her passive skills, she obtains +3 evasion, +2 attack, +3 special attack, and +3 special defense when using these moves. Stat increased control is a must-have against Cresselia. Defensively, Cresselia works similarly to Azelf's Legendary Arena. On her first health bar, she has Brain Barrier 8. This passive skill severely weakens special damage and special sync moves. Conversely, Cresselia's second and third health bars have Brain Barrier 8 instead. This passive filters physical damage and physical sync moves. Cresselia is somewhat susceptible to interferences. She starts the battle with Listen Trap 6. Upon recovery, she gains 3 stages of resistance to it until becoming immune. It's worth noting Cresselia only has Listen Flinch 8, so Flinch is a great crowd control tool to delay her actions. Another great tool to have against Cresselia are special attack debuffs. She has no passive skills to mitigate special attack reduction, so it's an easy way to weaken her damage. As far as status resistances are concerned, Cresselia has the standard passives most Legendary Arena bosses have, so they aren't a big focus for this fight. Cresselia actually sets up status reflection and immunity shields as the battle progresses, so status conditions can backfire on you. Now, let's talk about Cresselia's battle script. With the exception of Slash, Cresselia only uses special attacks through the entire encounter, so focus on bringing special tanks like Misty, Sycamore or Signature Blue. Vigilance will also greatly help you against any random crits you may not see coming. As mentioned earlier, Cresselia opens the fight with Double Team and Calm Mind, but Cresselia only buffs twice with both moves each. Also, Cresselia sets up a permanent light screen as soon as the battle starts. Cresselia will then cast Go Vital 9 Thunder Wave to paralyze your entire party, and will do it often after sinking. After reaching half health on her first health bar, Cresselia gains +3 accuracy, but that's all the buffs you can expect for the rest of the fight. Cresselia will also stop using Thunder Wave from this point forward. When Cresselia reaches her second health bar, she will use Sure Crit and Sure Hit Icy Wind. If you interrupt this attack with Flinch, Sleep or Freeze, Cresselia will skip Icy Wind altogether, so keep that in mind. When Cresselia reaches half health on this health bar, she will use Go Vital 9 Toxic. This is a death sentence if you come unprepared, so we will discuss several ways to work around it. On Cresselia's final health bar, she once again opens with Sure Crit Icy Wind. At half health, she will also use Sure Crit and Sure Hit Hyper Beam. Even the sturdiest special walls will succumb to this attack, so make sure you can finish the battle quickly when you reach this stage. The most annoying aspect of Cresselia are her stat increases. If you try and fight against +6 evasion, you will miss attacks very often. As a result, dedicated party members that counter stat increases are mandatory for this fight. You can steal Cresselia's buffs, erase them, or raise accuracy to mirror evasion and balance it out. Bryson and Grimsley are self-explanatory in that they take away Cresselia's buffs. Bryson offers little utility outside of this function, while Grimsley can snatch Cresselia's buffs and punish her with offensive pressure. Using accuracy is a bit more nuanced. Currently, you can use Leafy's Sync move or Lily's X accuracy all to raise the party's accuracy. The problem with this strategy is that you are not taking care of Cresselia's offensive buffs. I recommend bringing special attack debuffers to make Cresselia easier to handle. Do note that Cresselia always uses Double Team and Calm Mind twice on her first phase, until she reaches half health. Make sure you fully take care of this health threshold to prevent Cresselia from buffing again if you plan to re-enter the battle with a new team. Cresselia's other trick are status conditions. At the start of the fight, Cresselia spams Go Barrel 9 Thunder Wave until she reaches half health, and in the middle of the second health bar, she will use Go Barrel 9 Toxic once. Typically, tanks with Natural Remedy handle status comfortably, but Cresselia uses AoE Thunder Wave often, and you also need to cover for the threat of Toxic. You need more reliable means of combating status. I would first consider using Healing Hand 2. This passive provides a 30% chance of removing status conditions from the party. Several simpers have access to this passive. In particular, I recommend Professor Sycamore and Xerneas. They can fully buff the party's special defense and comfortably tank Cresselia. Sycamore's trainer move also manually removes status conditions. He can use Healing Hand 2 to remove paralysis, and then use his trainer move to proactively clear Toxic. New Year's Lily's trainer move provides status protection for a short period of time. The difference is that she has a couple uses for her trainer move, and she can refresh it with her one fight with. I don't recommend using status immunity passives unless your tank doesn't have a better lucky skill to use. If you give your tank paralysis immunity with life, they are still going to be vulnerable to Toxic. For this reason, letting your tank stay paralyzed is a viable strategy. A Pokémon can only be afflicted by one status condition at a time, so if your tank maintains paralysis, Cresselia cannot use Thunder Wave or Toxic. You can then use tools like Full Heal to clear paralysis from other party members. Given Cresselia has Brawn Barrier Aid and Brain Barrier Aid, having sources of damage that hit both offensive spectrums are recommended. In particular, I recommend Karen and Houndoom. Even at 1-5, she's a fantastic striker for this fight. As a Dark-type striker, she can hit Cresselia super effectively. Houndoom can use Bite for a physical damage source to bypass Brain Barrier 8. It can then Mega Evolve and use Dark Pulse to ignore Brawn Barrier 8. On her 2-fight grid, Karen gains access to Bite Aggravation 1 to enhance her chances of keeping Cresselia in check. As a cherry on top, Karen also has a Snarl to debuff special attack and weaken Cresselia. Karen only has to watch out for critical Icy Wind, but she's a great unit for this encounter. In a similar vein, Grimsley and Liepard greatly punish Cresselia. Snatch is a phenomenal tool to take away Cresselia's buffs. When the opponent has no positive buffs, Grimsley can Sing Nuke for massive damage. With access to Night Slash and Dark Pulse, he's a versatile offensive tool. He also has Life as an innate passive to prevent a Go Barrel 9 Thunder Wave from crippling him. You can use other creative mix strikers like Wally or Brendan, or sync pairs who can bypass Brawn Barrier like N or Solgaleo. If you are struggling with any of these options, I recommend taking out Cresselia's Fierce Hellbar with a stall strategy. You can then favor special strikers, because Cresselia is most vulnerable to special damage for the majority of the fight. Finally, I like to mention you can attempt to sleep chain Cresselia. Cresselia is susceptible to sleep chains because her Fierce Hellbar only has Listen Sleep 8. However, she can reflect status conditions on her second Hellbar, and she's outright immune to status on her third Hellbar. I recommend using a build-up method to stack several sync buffs before Cresselia reaches these phases, and then use Blast her with powerful attacks. If you want a more in-depth sleep chain guide, I recommend checking my Self Legendary Arena tutorial. Alright, time for a real example. Here we have the Sycamore method. Sycamore is a disgustingly broken sync pair, especially for a free-to-play unit, and he can easily steamroll Cresselia. The first time Sycamore was released, it was at the same time as Cresselia's Legendary Arena, but if you joined after the fact, do not worry, I have another free-to-play method that doesn't involve Sycamore, but if you do have him, I highly recommend that you employ him. The battle will be very simple with him. The Sycamore I am using is a 5.5 2020, the extra stats really help, and the sync grid is very simple. I am using Healing Hand 2 to cover for Thunderwave, and Master Healer tiles to improve Sycamore's healing. I am also using Moonblast MGR because it's Sycamore's best special damage, and it helps speed things up when we engage the 1v1. Now, Sycamore gained a reputation from soloing content due to the sheer recovery from Hornleech and Master Healer 2. When he's set up right, he generates infinite health from his damage, and Cresselia is no exception. Most crucially, you want to bring some grid support. It can be anybody. Phoebe, Maylin, Sabrina, as long as the slot is buffing grid for Xerneas, then you can replace Torchic with them. The other slot is more important because it's dedicated to stat increase control. Because even Sycamore has issues against targets with +6 evasion, so we have to take care of those evasion buffs. Bryson is a free-to-play alternative. He can haste them away, but he just sits around trying to proc phrase otherwise, very little utility. A far better pick would be Greensley, because he can take Cresselia's buffs and punish them with offensive pressure, with his dark type attacks. So if you have him, that will be a lot better. You may notice I also have Defense Crush 2 on Bryson and Torchic. It helps a little bit, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to show you an abridged version of the battle because it's 7 minutes long, but it's very simple. And the first Hellbar, you want to spam Hornleech to bypass Brain Barrier 8 and also attempt to proc a Healing Hand 2 to remove paralysis, and just keep chipping away at Cresselia. Your partners are very likely to die, but that doesn't matter. On the second Hellbar, you want to spam Moonblast as your main offense, and when Cresselia uses Toxic, you want to use your trainer move. Save your trainer move for Toxic, because you cannot depend on Healing Hand 2 to feel like removing Toxic. By the point you might die, and you just keep spamming Moonblast through the tier Hellbar, and if you don't have vigilance, you're going to get sniped here, but if you do, then you can just finish off the battle. Crit support is most important to bypass Cresselia's light screen, otherwise the battle is going to take forever. It's slow enough as it is. There isn't much to explain here other than spam Hornleech and Moonblast and use Haze after Cresselia uses Calm Mind. That's it. For those of you who missed out on Sycamore and have to deal with the Cresselia rerun, my condolences, but it's still very possible. It's just going to be a team effort. My strategy here is dealing with Cresselia's first Hellbar through any means necessary. It doesn't matter how you do it, but once you do, we can start debuffing Cresselia and bring a more competent team to finish things off. So I am employing a solo strategy. Note that I am resetting for a first turn Bad Poison with Koga. This is very important so we can start bumping up Bad Poison and progress through this phase a little quicker. And Cresselia is also fairly susceptible to trap damage, so you can do a good chunk with that as well. And we haven't even dealt any damage, but we already taken out a good chunk out of Cresselia's health. So Viola is also really good because she's a special defense tank, and then we also have Cheryl for some healing and some extra defenses to ensure the party's survival, at least for the short term. And my Viola and Koga are ungridded. If they were gridded, they would be more efficient, but it's not necessary. Even at 4 stars, they will still perform well here. So I'm just going to speed things up a little. Now we reach 50% HP here, and Trap and Poison wore off. That's just a side effect of Cresselia reaching this phase. So once this happens, you want to attempt to inflict Bad Poison and Trap, but if you miss, it doesn't matter because the next team will inflict them again. So just make sure that you reach this threshold so Cresselia will not be able to buff once again when you re-enter with a new team. The next team is a Brawly solo. Hope you're ready for this. You're not ready for this. This was in response to Cresselia being at a sync move on my attempt. So I just wanted somebody to eat it up, so my next team didn't have to. And Brawly can also remove light screen, which helps for the final team I will be using. He actually helped a lot by sacrificing himself like this. The next team looks stolly, but it's actually a stat increase control team. We are setting up the field so the final team can succeed against Cresselia. And Bryson is a given here. We have to take away Cresselia's evasion buffs, and Bryson is the only free-to-play alternative of doing so. He can also do some endure tanking with his turn move, and Lucy provides some good roll compression to inflict bad poison and trap on Cresselia once again. My Koga got lucky and managed to inflict bad poison before going down, but if yours didn't, you want to prioritize that, so we can start debuffing with Venom Drench. Venom Drench debuffs special attack, and speed, but I think I could have been more efficient by bringing Lieutenant Surge, because yeah, debuffing attack is nice to nerf Slash for Cresselia, but it's not really necessary. You don't have to do that, so I probably could have been more efficient by bringing the straight special attack debuffs, because debuffing with Venom Drench is actually quite an adventure with this team, so maybe you can improve the setup. And for the final team, here we have Misty and Skyla, a tried and true defensive core. Anything alongside them can pretty much finish off Cresselia, but I would recommend favoring special strikers. I am bringing Oak because he has very strong sync nukes and he doesn't even need crit support to deal decent damage with them. Misty has a 1-5 grid with bulk tiles and X special defense all NPR, very simple stuff. Oak has a sync nuking grid with Fear State 4 and Natural Remedy that will really prolong his longevity for this fight, while Skyla has a standard 1-5 grid with Potion NPR. Now, you may notice I have a 5-star potential on all these units. I am sorry, but I cannot really help it. It's my account and I cannot go back on this decision, but it shouldn't change the strat too much. If anything, you should attempt to raise Oak to 4-star potential, but that should suffice. Thanks to our preparations, the battle is simple. It's about buffing our defenses, healing when necessary, advancing the sync countdown with all 3 party members so Oak can reach his syncs a little quicker, and increase his damage with sync buffs. Now the tricky part here is that I am tanking with Oak, and normally I would not recommend this, but given my grid levels, I thought it would be best to put all my eggs in one basket, because spreading recovery across 3 party members can be a little tricky when you don't have a lot of NPRs to work with, but if you had a 3-5 Misty with friendly care, I would recommend tanking with Hair instead, but given the circumstances, I thought it would be best to just put all my recovery on my tank as well, and my tank happens to also be my striker, so there is an inherent risk with this strategy. But on this stage, Cresselia has Brain Barrier 8 still, so we are fully depending on the bad poison damage that Lucy set up beforehand to get through this Hell Bar. And once we get to the second Hell Bar, it will be a lot easier because Cresselia switches to Brain Barrier 8 instead, and Oak can actually start doing damage with his sinks. So I will advance things a little bit here. It's just spamming the same 3 moves over and over again. And at this stage, Cresselia's healthy healing does get in the way. It means that you will have to stay on this phase a little bit longer, but hopefully you will win the War of Attrition. Especially if you proc a Potion NPR with Skyla, that really helps with Oak's recovery. Now, most crucially here, we are going to wait until we reach the Toxic phase of Cresselia, when she falls below 50% HP. Right here, Cresselia is going to use Toxic. In my attempt, Toxic missed. That can happen because I have evasion buffs, which is also why tanking with Oak is beneficial, because I am stacking all my evasion on him. But if he didn't miss, Oak has Natural Remedy, so the run is not over, you can still continue the battle, but Misty and Skyla would be poisoned. So for the purposes of demonstration here, I stop attacking with both Starmie and Swanna, because I want to show that you can still get through this Hellbar even if they cannot continue attacking, because they were about poisoned by Cresselia. That is just something to keep in mind. On the final Hellbar, it's a little tricky because what you need to do is push Cresselia to a range where you ensure that you're going to feign her with a sync move, because we want to skip her 50% HP so we don't have to deal with Hyper Beam, because that will destroy Oak and end the run. So we have to ensure that the sync move we launch here will finish the battle, so we can skip that phase and successfully win the encounter without Sycamore. So there you have it. I don't think Cresselia is that difficult once you figure out her tricks, but it can be a little challenging. So I hope this video helps you. Thank you for watching and take care. I hope to see you another time.